studio I really like where I'm making an album. But I just realized yesterday they put the rate up, and then with the hotel room, it's sort of like, wow, I could be fucking renting a studio in Sydney now. It's sort of like, it's the same price, but still. So yeah, it's like a nice little town about an hour away from Sydney, a little tropical it's sort of stormy spring weather out there.
Okay, very nice. Yeah. I have a colleague in Byron Bay, a colleague that lives there that I work with, and
that's a nice place.
Yeah, from what I've
seen
and heard.
Hippie capital. Who's that? What's his name?
Kind of like Laguna Beach or Santa Cruz here in California.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you spend a lot of time here as well.
I used to. I don't know if I ever will again. It's not looking very good. No, it isn't. I don't think.
I would stay right where you are. I think you're doing fine over there.
It's we've been very lucky. We have really sidestepped it. I believe Sydney's gotten down to no cases, and wow. I believe that. But it just takes one fucking person to come out of somewhere, walk around town sneezing, and bang, it's all back on again, isn't it?
It's scary, crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've managed to be productive, so let's talk about that. This year didn't go the way anyone planned, obviously, but as an artist, you found a way to turn it into something productive and creative.
I was really lucky. I'm not normally very good at this sort of thing. I just sort of stumble along, and I was really lucky. The day before 2 days before the whole COVID thing kind of opened up, I was driving around town with a friend of mine who was doing some interviews. I'd written the lyrics on her album. I was driving around, and then she said, "Hey, smile, Steve, you're on camera live." And I said, "How do you do that?" And she said, "It's on Instagram." And I went, "I didn't know Instagram could do that." And she said, "Yeah, you just do this and this." So about a couple of days later, the whole thing happened, and it looked like everything was all over. And I just jumped on Instagram, more that thing of sort of needing the fix of some applause and some comments more than looking for money or anything. And I just said, "Look, I'm just going to play for an hour. I've got an hour. I'm going to play some songs. And if you feel like it, if you really feel like I don't want to put the squeeze on people, because I realized everybody was going into this bad sort of turn down. I said, but if you feel like it, you can chuck me some money." And it was quite promising. And then I just started doing it every week, and it actually turned into a real thing where people going, "Please play. I'm stuck at home." And then I started to play entire albums, like in their entirety. But I found the reason I started writing songs in the first place is because I'm really bad at working out other people's songs. And then I found out I was bad at working out my own songs. So I'd spend all week trying to figure out the chords to the songs on Seance and Blurred Crusade. And then one week I just said, "Look, I'm going to write a new album instead of trying to figure out the chords to an old one. I'm going to write an album in a week." So I did that. And the idea was I announced it, I'm going to write an album, I'm going to play it, and then I'm never going to play or touch those songs again, to sort of show people how cavalier I could be with my creativity. I can just write 10 songs, put them on the internet, and then never play them or think about or talk about them again. But when I've written them, I like them. I liked them too much, and I couldn't leave them alone. And so, bang, I came up to this studio where I am now and got some mates and recorded them. And I was kind of delighted with the results, which is why I'm doing the whole thing all over again now with a brand new bunch of songs, the same guys. I've now roped in a harpist. I met a guy how's this for a gig? He's got 2 jobs. He builds and plays the harp, like the not the harp, but the harp, and he's a professional wrestler. I mean, how do you fucking reconcile those two things?
Wow.
I mean, yeah. So you don't normally get those those two qualities in one guy.
No.
And then I met another guy making this film, a guy that can do this whistle. I can't do it, but he puts his fingers in there, and he can do that sound like that kind of the sound they had all through the Titanic, the sort of the distant Celtic woo. The first time he did it on stage, that's what I thought someone had sampled the whistle on that movie, The Titanic, and was playing it through the PA. And I turned around, and this guy was standing there jamming along to Under the Milky Way with this. I don't know how he does it. It sounds like it's coming from everywhere in the venue was going, what the fuck is that?
Wow.
So he can do this distant Celtic whistle just there. It sort of picks up the resonance in his head or something. You can't even tell where it's coming from. So I've got the harpist and the whistler coming in, along with my usual. I've got this great classical guitarist,
mm-hmm.
and I've got this amazing keyboard player who's got loads of esoteric instruments like a hurdy-gurdy and hammered dulcimer and the Swedish instrument called a nyckelharpa. So I've got this great cast of characters, and I'll just write these songs, and we just do it all really quickly. And I'm really loving this new modus operandi of, like, because with the church, everything was so of necessity, I guess. Everything was dragged out. We'd write all these backing tracks, and then we'd have 50 backing tracks, and then of course we can only record 15. So then we'd have this process where we'd play them all and we'd vote for them, and people would stand up and go, I want this song on the album because blah, blah, blah. And so I've dispensed with all of that. And it's just like these songs that I write in 3 minutes. I write the vocals and the chords, and I come along and I sort of put them down with the 12-string guitar, and everybody jumps in, and by necessity, it has to be done quickly. And I'm finding a real virtue in that.
And how refreshing. And that speaks to your talent, though, to be able to do that and pull that off.
Well, I don't, okay. What justified me in this is I was in the studio. I found a little known book by Woody Woodmansey, who was the drummer in the Spiders from Mars. And he said, Bowie used to come in, he'd play them the song, he'd go, you got that? And they go, yeah. And then Bowie would give them one or two. He said at the very most, and only very rarely would they get 3 chances at recording it. And he said he usually took the first take when the guys didn't even really know kind of what they were doing, and they were doing it on a wing and a prayer. I think there's some real magic when something isn't over rehearsed and had everything squashed out. Of course, you can't do Bohemian Rhapsody like this. You really, when you do songs like some things will require a month, to get that song right and get everything in place and move around. But I'm sort of doing it the opposite way. It's like really quick. Here's the song, bang, bang, bang. Everybody join in. That'll do. If you made a mistake, just leave it. I'm finding a virtue in that anyway. Just something really different. A different way of looking at things, a different way of doing things. So that's kind of what happened with 11 Women. The songs were all written in 3 minutes each, and then they were all recorded. The whole album was finished in 3 days, vocals and everything.
And it's a wonderful album, and the songs are so great. To be able to do that, though, I mean, you can talk about everything you're doing, and that's refreshing. You can capture that vibe. But if the songs were garbage, none of that would matter. But the songs are so great, what you can pull off in 3 minutes.
Thank you.
That can go alongside your classic songs and add to your discography. Must be a good feeling.
Yeah, look, this is the thing. It seems to an outsider, it probably seems like, wow, some people would go, that's miraculous. And other people go, yeah, it fucking sounds like it was 3 minutes and 3 days, and go, some people go, yeah, well, it sounds like that, Steve, doesn't it? But this is the thing. I'm always amazed when my car breaks down and I ring it's the NRMA in Australia, and a guy turns up and he goes, "What's the problem?" And you go, "Listen to this," and it immediately goes, "Oh, that's your blah 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 and you blah blah blah," and he immediately knows what's wrong, and he immediately jumps in and goes, "All right, you can drive it now, but you're going to have to go." And he can assess. Or if you take I don't know, I've never done this, but I imagine you take in a bit of a diamond and a bit of gold, and you go into a jeweler and you go, "I want this jewel set in this gold," and the guy looks at it, and he can appraise it. I've sort of got like that with music now, after doing it so long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 66 years old. I was turned 66 the other day. I've been doing this since I was 16. So that's 50 years, right? With my mathematics aren't that good. 50 years of doing it. I've sort of reached a stage where in my brief, before I collapse into senility and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm sort of sitting here and I've got all this knowledge and experience at my fingertips, and I can sort of instantly figure out what things need, and when I'm writing a song, it all happens very quickly and the words all fall into place. And when I'm recording, I can direct these guys. And so because I've been doing it so long, I can kind of quickly and instantly assess if something's going to work and what we need. And then if you surround yourself with really good players who you can direct. See, with the church, there can be a slight problem, because you can go, guys in the church, because we're all in a band together, and you go, "Oh, I don't like." Well, you can't say I don't like it. You've got to think of, there's all this psychology. You've got to think of a way. If something's not going the way you want, you have to go, how can I think of a way to tell this guy without insulting him and his parents and his lineage and everything? How can I say I don't really like that thing there? And then by the time you have that, but with this project, because I'm in control and I'm paying the bills and they're all kind of playing for me, I can kind of go, that isn't the way I want it. And then they'll stop and go, "Well, what do you want?" And I'll go, "Something else." So it's much more of a shorthand way of doing things without all that. Mm-hmm. I remember a record producer said to me, he said, "Man, this job's like being a psychologist. You've got all the guys in the band and their long history together, and you can't say this and you can't say that, and you can't tell this guy, so that's the great thing about this. All these players, you can just go, "Hey, do this. No, don't do that." And they're not going to sort of, there's no extra kind of emotional juju that goes with it. You know what I mean? So I'm really enjoying working like this. And I think 11 women, it's very hard to judge your own stuff. Like you can't always tell what's going on. But to me, 11 women, as sort of distance as I can get from it, it sort of has a freshness and a kind of a verve. But some maybe I haven't. Some of the things I've had haven't had that for a while, and I think that's a result of it all being so fresh.
It's nice. Will that change your approach to the next church material? Even having said everything you just said, will that change that?
It isn't going to. The church are sort of 3/4 the way through a record, and if you're gonna have a band of really good players, you've got to listen to what everybody says. By necessity, you can't get Joe Blow, the best guitarist in the world, to join your band, and then when he says, "Hey, Steve," I think, "Oh no, I'm not listening to that." So when you're a band, you've got to, and we are a band. I mean, the band has changed. I mean, I am now the only original member, but still, all the players I've got, I need to listen to what they say, and that's the nature of it. It's sort of it's a democracy, and everybody has to comment and have their say. And that, I guess that now can be the defining difference between what I do and what the church do, is that on my own, when I do things on my own, I'm going to, because I was, I guess the last solo records I did, it was more like the Church as well, kind of not being totally in control and not honoring the moment and the spontaneity of sort of like, you know, over rehearsing things and stuff. But now I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this quickness as a sort of a gimmick, I think, and it really, it definitely doing things quickly yields a result. If that's the result you want, and I'm beginning to see, you know, when the legendary thing is the Beatles made their first album in a day, and the fucking record, you know, you listen to that record, it's kind of naive and it's not the Beatles they turned into, but it really, you know, there is a real thing about doing things quickly and
sure.
getting it over and getting out of there. I think there's a real virtue for that.
And if you don't mind just looking back a little bit, the first time I saw you play was opening for Echo and the Bunnymen here in LA on that tour. I think it was 88. Does that make sense? Or
it was 86. What were you, about 3 years old?
86 Universal Amphitheater. Yes, yeah. 86.
How old were you then?
I would have been about 15.
Oh, okay. Should you have been there, or did you sneak in underage?
I definitely should have been there, but I definitely had to meet my folks at the right time outside for the ride home.
Okay. Yeah, 86. Yeah, Echo and the Bunnymen. That's right.
Yeah, I still have a poster from that tour. But what?
Oh my God!
If you were to look back at that time, and that's when things were really hitting big for you here in the States, obviously with that album. What was that period like for you?
I think that the bubbling under period was more fun than the explosion. So that was a really good tour for us to be on. I think it was, you don't often, sometimes you play with a band who are so different to you, or so much, I don't know, more accomplished or in a different place than you, that you can't hope to steal their audience, and it's just really inappropriate. But that was a really appropriate band for us to be opening for. They were further up the stack than we were. You know, they were clawing their way to the top in a different place. But a lot of the people who were there to see them were being exposed to us for the first time, and they seemed to like it. And they were really good days. I think it was before all sort of hell broke loose, and we were just we were contenders, and it was quite nice. It was quite nice just being a contender and opening for them, and I have fond memories. Heyday was a great album. It was sort of fresh, and we'd broken through into new territory, and the band were all those. Sadly, those three guys are all not in the band anymore. But we're all kind of getting along okay.
Good.
So no, I look back upon that period. What was it? 34 years ago now. I look back upon it fondly.
Yeah, very good. Well, glad to see you haven't stopped, and your music is as great or better than ever. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Steve.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted on this. Stay safe and healthy there in Australia. You're in a good
mate.
place.
All right. I'll see you later.
Real pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.